Hello and welcome to the Gold Newsletter channel. My name is Kai Hoffmann. I'm the EdJR Mining Guy on Twitter and the CEO of the SOAR Financial Group. And together with Brien Lundin, I'm the host of this channel. And today we got Rick Trotman with us. You're the president and CEO over at Barksdale Resources. Rick, I think it's your first time on the channel, so I really appreciate it, you joining us. The Gold Newsletter channel, I mean, because you're just like, because we've done interviews before. We've known each other for a while, but you haven't been on Brien and my new channel, more or less new channel, Revive channel. So,
yeah, it's the first time.
We need to start with an introduction. Who or what is Barksdale Resources? Give us a 30, 60-second overview, and then we'll dive into the nitty-gritty a little bit.
Sure, yeah. So Barksdale Resources is a base metal exploration company focused in Arizona in the United States, as well as Sonora, Mexico. And we're an exploration company. We look for things that we think have the potential to be quite big, quite impressive, and important in this day and age as far as looking for copper, zinc, silver, things of that nature. So we've got a collection of properties in Arizona that are in a fantastic district where we hold kind of one of the flagship properties in the area, centered in and around a very big porphyry complex. So we have a very large copper deposit and this huge manto system off the side that we're exploring. And then we also have a project down in Mexico called San Javier, which is an iron oxide copper gold kind of open pit heap leach style development project. So different flavors, but nevertheless both interesting assets that are worth pushing forward.
Fantastic. No, let's break up the conversation just like you did. Let's start in Arizona. Run us a bit through like the work you've done there in the recent past, because I know it's been a while to get that drill permit, and we've talked about it before. So run us a bit through like what have you done since you got the permit? How did the drilling go? Give us a bit of a refresher there.
Yeah, so Barksdale has been permitting at Sunnyside, our flagship asset, for the better part of 5 years until last fall when we received our permit from the federal government to conduct our exploration program. So that was kind of a monumental occasion for the company. Everyone, I think most people didn't think we were going to get it, quite honestly, but we did. That was wonderful. And so in September, October of last year, we embarked on our first drilling campaign at Sunnyside. So this is looking for kind of very high grade copper, zinc, silver, manto deposits off the side of a porphyry. So the first couple of holes that we put down in that program, we had reasonable success. We hit in Sun 3 about a dozen zones of carbonate replacement style mineralization, some of them very high grade, albeit very narrow. So not exactly what investors were looking for. We have some historic holes that have very, very thick, very high grade intercepts, and what we ended up doing is stepping out and drilling kind of off the periphery of that main structural zone. So now we've got our bearings, we understand how that structure is behaving, and so this next wave of drilling that we're going to kind of kick off here in the near future, it's going to be better guided towards this structure now that we've got our bearings, so to speak.
I was going to say, is like, what did you learn from it? It's like, because as you said, the market had other expectations, so let's throw it in the miss category. But it's like the question is, it's only a miss if you don't learn anything from it.
Yeah, exactly.
Like I have a bit of a problem with the word technical success, all right? But of course, like you get some results and something out of it. So it's like, how are you going to follow up from, the recent drilling?
Yeah, of course. Well, look, I think the number one thing that we learned was that, the direction of the heat source. So with the different types of minerals and the different types of alteration that you see within the drill core, you can kind of look between a series of holes and determine where you're sitting proximal to the heat. And the heat is kind of where you want to be, because the higher the temperatures, the higher the alteration state, which means generally the more fluid flowed through that area. And that's what you're looking for, fluid flow, because that's where the metals are coming into that area and getting dumped out and deposited, right? So when we drilled that step out to the north, we saw kind of the same number of zones, but they were thinner, although they did have high grade, being thinner than what we saw in the historic drilling. And so that combined with the different types of scarning and the color of the garnets and things of that nature, it just pointed to a cooler environment. And so what that basically meant to us using the other holes is heats back towards the south. So that structure that could have been sitting in this direction, we think is sitting more in this direction. And I'm sure everyone that's watching me using my hands is not going to understand what direction that is. But we think it's a little bit more east-west than northwest-southeast, effectively.
So you're going to drill Is that the plan? Like,
That's
is
the
that
plan.
the ideal step? And
Yep.
are you financed for it? I think that's the big question.
We are not financed for it. So that's the kind of, there's two kind of mission critical strategies that we're pushing forward right now. So first is finding a new drilling contractor that we think can actually perform the duties, get the holes where we need them to go, do it in a safe, efficient manner and cost effectively, right? So the last program that we had, we tried to do wedge holes, so daughter holes off of a main kind of pilot hole. That was unsuccessful. And ultimately that caused us to end that program. We didn't want to keep going forward with a strategy that wasn't working. And so we had to recalibrate. Now we think that we figured out who we want to use. The other kind of tandem track here is figuring out the financing piece. And I think we're well on our way there. So I would say here in the next couple of weeks, we'll have kind of our druthers when it comes to financing and have the next kind of phase forward going.
I don't want to give you like anything away. Like I don't want any forward-looking statements or insider information, of course, obviously. But like, run us a bit through the options here, because the share price has taken a beating. So you're trading around 18 cents as we speak. Not ideal. So dilution is going to be a factor. Run us a bit through the options that you might be looking at.
Yeah. So look, dilution is going to be something that happens. Even if we were successful, we would take on dilution as we funded further exploration activities. Obviously, we wanted the price to be higher, not lower. So look, we're taking it on the chin when it comes to that standpoint. It's all about bringing in the right partner. We want to make sure that the group or groups that we bring in, and we're working on this, there's no guarantees. We're hoping that we can bring in a group that not only can provide us with that financial firepower, they can add some technical prowess, and they can also be there for the long term, right? So that they are the anchor going forward, right? And that's how we look to limit dilution in the future. To not constantly wonder with who and how much, so to speak, right? So that's what we're endeavoring to solve.
Yeah, I don't want to put you in a bad space, but I want to ask, like, you have South 32 next door. It's a big project. They sank a shaft, so they've done quite a bit of investment already into their project. And you speak about a partner, so I'm going to put you on the spot. Like, is the partner even willing to take it that far? Like, what are their, what do you call it? Like, even their exit strategy? Like, what's the plan? Like, what's the end goal? Because we talked permitting earlier. Building on permitting even a second operation next door to an existing one doesn't sound like the smartest way forward.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like,
of course. And I've had conversations with numerous companies, both ones that we're currently talking to and others that have kind of fallen by the wayside. And I have had various different strategies kind of impressed upon me that range from people that are looking for offtake, kind of a supply of metals going forward, so copper concentrates, zinc, lead concentrates, you name it. I've had folks that ultimately want, kind of minority project level positions going forward, which they think could become, kind of a piece of something bigger. And then I've had folks that want the whole thing and, kind of view it as an excellent platform to find something significant, and the rest will sort itself out in the future. And so this isn't a one-trick pony. There's not just one way to kind of
skin a cat. Like, what's the term? Yeah, skin a cat.
Exactly.
No, it's good to hear you have options available, right? We're in New York. This is private equity capital of the world as well. So I'm sure you'll have some interesting conversations here at this conference as well.
Indeed.
Timeline? Anything like you mentioned that next couple of weeks?
I'm hoping.
Like I know it's like ideal world scenario, of course, but
my crystal ball's not too shiny these days, Kai. What I can say is that we have been kind of pushing the ball forward for quite some time, and I think sooner rather than later we will come to an outcome.
Oh, fantastic, awesome. I think that's it on Arizona. I think we've covered enough ground. But let's talk Mexico.
Yeah.
Because you put out a PEA on San Javier. Run us a bit through the highlights and what are some of the key key performance indicators, like the key metrics.
Yeah. So for those that don't know, San Javier is our kind of sister project. It's a iron oxide copper gold system in Mexico. Very simple, very kind of straightforward project when it comes to developing. So it would be an open pit mine. You take off the top of this hill effectively. It's oxide copper, which lends itself to kind of heap leaching type technology for extraction. And that's, you put the dirt on a pad, you trickle acid through it, it dissolves the copper, and then you can actually plate that copper on site into a saleable form. So whereas most other copper
Is it the cathode you produce, or
Yeah,
what's that? Like
exactly.
copper sheet? Is that okay?
Copper cathodes, yeah, exactly. And so you can send those direct to your end marketers. Whereas most copper companies, they produce concentrate. You've got to send that concentrate to a smelter somewhere in the world, and there are various additional steps there, right? So you lose value. You need to have a higher kind of grade product, a higher grade operation to make it all work. So this is a low capital intensity, easy to build type of operation that someone, not us, someone is going to find attractive as that first production asset for their company. Someone that wants to build a copper company. And that's exactly what we think that we can do here. Ultimately is vend that property to the right person or group that can push it forward and ultimately make us money in the process. And so those are the options that we're exploring with San Javier. We're being patient. We want to make sure that we find the right group and that the timing is right. So those are kind of conversations we're having in the background.
I'm sure at $5.15 copper a pound, it should be interesting conversations. Or at least the phone should be ringing.
Yeah, exactly, and it is. It is. I mean, the PE that we put out, it had a $62 million U.S. MPV after tax. That was at $4 copper. At $4.50, it goes up to 110. At $5 copper, it's even higher than that. So these assets are quite leveraged to the copper price. And when you see small movements in the copper price, you have outsized movements in the MPV of these projects. And so that's going to be attractive for folks.
What are the next steps at San Javier? PA is always a milestone, but of course, what are next steps? Do you need to do more drilling and resource update, PFS? Curious.
For us, this is the end of the line for San Javier. So we are kind of in discussions with a number of different groups about San Javier. We'll see if those go anywhere, but we are not planning to put money into exploration on San Javier at this point. That dollar is best spent in Arizona. We feel that we get better torque in Arizona for drilling up there. I mean, the prize up there could be so much more significant than adding incrementally to San Javier, which there's plenty of potential to do.
No, fantastic. It could really help subsidize maybe non-dilutive way of financing is monetizing that asset, and the PA put a nice price sticker on it, I guess, as well. No, fantastic. Excellent. I'm trying to think, like, we've talked Arizona, we talked Mexico. Any other catalysts or anything we should be paying attention to?
The next big catalyst is going to be our go-forward plan, effectively. And so hopefully here in the not-too-distant future, we'll be kind of talking about that more thoroughly.
No, fantastic. Rick, thank you so much for joining me. Really good update. Of course, I've been familiar with the story. I've been to site, and I want you to succeed, of course, because we've known each other for a number of years, and really appreciate you joining me here in New York at the SME conference. And where can we follow you, Rick?
You can follow us at barksdaleresources.com. You can sign up there for discussions with myself or Terry Ann Wellicke, our VP of Communications, directly. And then we have all the typical social media stuff. Look for Barksdale Resources or BRO. That's our ticker on the TSXV.
Fantastic. Awesome. Really appreciate it, Rick. Thank you so much. Everybody else, thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you found this conversation here with Rick Trotman, President and CEO over at Barksdale Resources, informative. I thought it was a good update, really good update to see where is the company, what is happening now. We've all been following the story, of course, and good to see that drill permit. And no, let's succeed. Really want to see the company succeed. Really appreciate it. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll be back with lots more here from New York.